walk up to the bus, we want to look around. We want to make sure that there's no damage to the bus, no dents, vandalism, or scratches. We want to make sure there's no hazards around the bus. We want to make sure it's not leaning to one side or the other. We're going to look at our clearance lights, our student reds and yellows, our turn signals and four-ways, and our headlights. Make sure that all the lenses are properly colored, they're securely mounted, and no damage to them. We're going to look at the windshields, make sure they're not cracked or broken, no damage to them, no illegal stickers. We're going to look underneath of it, make sure there's no fluids, no oil, coolant, and of course any fuel, but fuel is propane on this thing, so we're not going to, it's going to be vapor. All of our mirrors are securely mounted, the hood crossover mirrors and the other mirrors. We'll open the hood. We'll start at the top and work our way out. We got our power steering fluid levels between hot and cold. We got our engine oils on the dipstick between add and full. We got our alternator. It is securely mounted. The wires aren't cracked or frayed. No damage or shorts. It is belt driven. And down in here is our water pump, and it is securely mounted. It's belt driven. There's no leaks on that. The power steering pump is down here also. It is belt driven. It's also securely mounted. No leaks. No damage to that. Our air compressor is securely mounted. There's no damage to it. It's securely mounted, and it's not leaking any of the fluids that come in or out of that. The belt, it is belt driven. The belts that run the air compressor, the power steering pump, the water pump, and the alternator are all securely mounted, not cracked or frayed, and have the proper tension, 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. We got our steering linkage here. It's securely mounted, properly greased, no damage to that. It goes into the steering box, which is securely mounted to the frame, no missing or worn parts there. The hoses that go in and out of the steering box aren't cracked or frayed or leaking. We got our pitman arm, our drag link, our upper and lower control arms. Everything is all securely mounted, no damage to that, properly greased. The castle nuts and the cotter pins are all in place where they need to be and secure. The spring mounts, front and rear, are securely mounted, no missing or worn, damaged parts to them. The springs, none cracked, broken, or missing. We got our U-bolts, front and rear, are tight, no damage or missing parts, worn parts there either. The shock absorber securely mounted, top and bottom, and no leaks there. We got our air hose and our ABS line is secure, not cracked or frayed, no leaks, no damage to those. The chamber, the brake chamber, is securely mounted and not leaking. The push rod is straight, no damage to that. The pins are all in place and in good working order. The slack adjuster, if I pulled on the slack adjuster, it would not move more than 1 inch with the brakes released. Inside here, what you can't really see is the brake drum and the brake lining. The brake drum isn't cracked or frayed, not wet with oil or grease, no heat damage. The pads, the brake pads, the brake linings aren't wet with oil or grease either, and no less than 1/4 of an inch. The tires, evenly worn with no less than 4/32. No abrasions, bulges, or cuts on the sidewalls. And I check with a pressure gauge at the valve stem to make sure for proper inflation. The rim isn't bent or damaged, and no non-factory welds. All my lug nuts are all there, they're tight, and the hub oil seal is not leaking and filled to the proper level. Our mud flap is securely mounted and to the proper height. Once again, we got our mirrors securely mounted over here. We have our electrical panel here, which we have circuit breakers. We do not have any spare electrical fuses. Our battery box, make sure that the batteries are all securely mounted and no excessive corrosion. Our stop arm operates properly. The lenses aren't cracked or broken, and we check make sure that this doesn't leak when we have air when it's actually working. Our inspection sticker is current. It was inspected this month, July. Ready to go underneath. We're going to look We've got our air tank is securely mounted. The lines are not damaged to that. We got our drive shaft is all securely mounted. The carrier bearings, the safety hangers, everything is properly greased. We got a view of the exhaust system over there into the back. That is securely mounted and it's not leaking either. We have our coolant level between cold and hot, or it should be between cold and hot. It's a little below cold right now. It hasn't been run. Washer fluid level. Got plenty of washer fluid. We checked the transmission fluid level. I'd inspect this side of the bus the same as I did the other side. I'd make sure my hood and hinges aren't damaged and operate properly. Alright. The side of the bus. Once again, no damage to that. I'm going to look at my lights and my reflectors, my reflective tape, my turn signals 4-ways, my clearance lights. Everything's all securely mounted in the proper colors. Yellows at the front, red to the back, and no damage to any of that. Once again, I've got my inspection sticker here. And, so we're going to go under and look at things over here. We got our air hoses and ABS lines. They're securely mounted. No leaks, no damage to those. Goes to the chamber. The chamber's securely mounted, no leaks. We got our slack adjuster and push rod. You can see probably a little better across the way. Just the cord, catch a little bit of that. The push rod is straight, no damage to that. The clevis and the pins are in place and securely mounted. The slack adjusters, with the brakes released, I make sure that it didn't move more than an inch. Of course, on the other side too, it's what you can't see is easier to see there. We got a little bit of the brake linings and the brake drum. The drum isn't wet with oil or grease, no heat damage, and the linings aren't wet with oil or grease either, and no less than 1/4 of an inch. We got our front spring mount. We have a back spring mount. We'll look at that in a minute. The spring mounts are securely mounted, no damage to those guys. We got our springs and torque arm are both securely mounted, no damage to those. And the U-bolts, which are here but you can't see right now, they're securely mounted, no missing or worn parts there. We're going to sneak to the back over here. We got our shock absorber securely mounted top and bottom, and it's not leaking. Farther in here is the airbag, and that is securely mounted top and bottom, and the airbag isn't leaking. While we're here and looking at it, our mud flap is securely mounted, no missing or worn parts there. Tires. All 4 sidewalls, no abrasions, bulges, or cuts. The tires are evenly worn with no less than 2/30 seconds. And here at the valve stem, I'd check to make sure with the tire gauge for proper inflation, whatever the manufacturer recommends. And make sure that there's no foreign objects between my tires and they're evenly spaced. I got all of our lug nuts again, securely mounted, no missing or worn parts, no rust trails or shine spots to indicate looseness. I got our rims, both rims, not bent, no damage to them guys, no illegal non-factory welds, and our axle seal is secure and not leaking. Mud flap we talked about. We got the fuel cap is on and tight. Once again, there's no leaks anywhere. The tank and the cage and the fuel tank and the cage and the lines are all securely mounted, no damage, and not leaking. The back of the bus. I look at all my lights, reflectors, my clearance lights, my student reds and yellows, my turn signals and 4-ways, the brake lights, backup lights, and tail lights. Make sure everything is all securely mounted. The lenses aren't cracked or broken or damaged. They're proper colors where they need to be. Reflective tape and reflectors are all there. And make sure my door opens and closes properly. And the floor is reasonably clean. And I'd inspect this side of the bus the same as I did the other. And as we come in, we're going to do an entry check. We're going to make sure the door opens and closes properly. We got our weather stripping there, and it's not damaged. The glass isn't damaged. on either side. The stair tread is securely mounted to the stairs, and the stepwell light works properly. Is securely mounted. The lens isn't broken. We'll check for operation in a minute. And the handrails are secure. We've got our first aid kit is full, and the emergency assistant cards are there. The fire extinguisher has been inspected within the last year. It's fully charged. It's securely mounted. The pin is in, and the safety latch is there too. Body fluid cleanup kit is full. I do not have a spare flashlight right now. No less spare electrical fuses. I got 3 reflective triangles there, and the 6 road flares. I'm going to do a safe start. Make sure that the parking brake is set and the gear shift's in neutral. My ABS light comes on and goes off. My seat is properly adjusted for me. The seat belt is securely mounted, no damage to it, and latches properly. Alright, so we're going to start the brake checks. We're going to leave the parking brake set, we're going to put it in drive, and give it a little gas, and make sure it doesn't move. We're going to push the brake in, we're going to pull forward about 5 miles an hour, and make sure it doesn't pull left or right. And it did not. I'm going to rev it up. We're going to build up air pressure to the full 120 pounds and make sure my steering wheel doesn't have excessive play in it. No more than 2 inches on a 20-inch wheel. I'm going to honk the horn, make sure the horn works. While we're waiting, I'm going to check my mirrors, make sure all my mirrors are properly adjusted for me, including the student overhead mirror and my visor. Air blows down, and we'll know it has full 120 pounds. There it is. Alright, so the brake is still released. I'm going to turn the engine off. I'm going to turn it back to the on position. I'm going to sit here for a minute, and I'm going to make sure that it doesn't lose more than 2 pounds in that minute. Usually you don't have to wait the whole minute. I'm going to put my foot on the brake. I'm going to hold it for a minute. I'm going to make sure you don't lose more than 3 pounds in that minute. And that depends on the examiner or your instructor. I'm not going to wait the whole minute. I'm going to pump it down around 60 pounds. I'm going to get lights and buzzers. The rear chamber is there, and the front chamber is there at 60 pounds, and the light and buzzers are both on. I'm going to continue to pump it down until the yellow knob pops. And the rear chamber is going to be almost nothing. And there it is. I'm going to restart it and build up air pressure. And while it's doing that, I'm going to run the switches over here. So we got a heater pump, not really much to see there. It circulates the water through the heaters really a lot faster. My rear heater, low and high, you can hear that. My right heater, low and high, you can hear that. My defroster is low, medium, and high. We got that fan low and high, that fan low and high. Heated mirrors, not much to see. My strobe light, and we'll check that on the back, but there's the switch for that. My noise suppression, if I had everything on, my noise suppression switch works. The warning light master's on. My warning light yellows come on. I open the door, and of course the door does open and close properly, which it's not going to do because I don't have enough air. But my red lights did come on. And my emergency override. My dome lights main dome lights and my dome light. We got the headlights and the dash lights. Everything is lit. Wipers and washers. So on the dash I got my left turn signal, right turn signal, 4 ways, and the high beams. Radio check. I call in base for radio check. Alright, now we're going to check the seat backs and bottoms. I'm going to make sure that everything is securely mounted. Seat backs and bottoms. Seat backs and bottoms. Seat backs and bottoms. I'm going to check this window. Make sure that the lights and buzzer come on and the window operates properly. Daily pre-trip I would do every one of them, but for speed and CDL I inspect the other ones the same as I did that one. While I'm here at the roof vent, it's already open, but I'm going to check to make sure that it fully opens and the light buzzer goes on that. Continue on back, lights, seats, lights. Seat backs and bottoms until we get all the way to the back door where Daniel will switch places. And the light and buzzer comes on there. So now we'd ask Mr. Examiner, could you help me check my lights? On the front side and rear of the bus, I'm going to check my clearance lights and marker lights, my turn signals left and right in the 4 ways, my student reds and yellows. I have my high beams and low beams on the front, and on the back my tail lights and brake lights and the strobe light. And if you've noticed, on the way out the door, my step-up light is working. So, out front, we got left, right, 4 ways, high beams, low beams, clearance, student yellows, student reds. And then they go down the side, turn that turn signal on. Then they're to the back, left, right, turn signals, 4 ways, yellows, strobe light, red lights, and the emergency overrides. Oops. And then the brake lights and backup lights. And that should be it. I forgot. We check the operation inspection as we drive away. We're going to make sure that the steering is no problems with that. The engine is running properly and the transmission shifts smoothly. The suspension isn't any weird things going on with the suspension. Also, when we get back, we're going to set the parking brake, put it in neutral. We're going to shut off all of our switches. We're going to check for leftover kits. We don't want any leftovers. Check our automatic transmission weekly and fill out any paperwork that we need to have done. And that's when we get back. That should do it. You ready? All right. And thanks to my cameraman, Daniel Nixon. He's a senior. I'm going to go start at UT. He's ridden my bus since he was in kindergarten. So congratulations to him, and thanks for being my cameraman.